Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a special called workshop, which I'm going to call to order. Today is Wednesday, November the 8th at 2:30, 2023. It's at 1:30, and we're in the Ralph H. Walton Jr. Justice Center, the Central Jury Room at 1200 West Pearl Street in Granbury, Texas. And we have today with us the Honorable Richard Hoffs again. Did I get it close this time, Richard? You want to give us the invocation, my friend?
Be my pleasure, Judge. Please pray with me. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this great country that we live in, and we thank you for the freedoms that you blessed us with. Lord, as we gather together to talk about the business of this community, we pray that your wisdom will be upon these elected officials, that your hand will guide them, and that their course of action will be what is best for the community. Father, we thank you for the forgiveness of your Son, Jesus Christ, and pray that we can use his love as a model for each other to love one another. It's in his name that we pray. Amen.
If you would, please join me in a pledge to the United States. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the pledge to the great state of Texas.
Honor and touch the flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, we're all gathered here today, and I see a lot of good new faces out here to discuss the priorities for the ARPA grant funding. So I've got a number of people that signed up, both heads of departments here, and I guess I'd like to look at it and let some of the civilians here talk first. I guess Tina Brown, come on up here, and you signed up here first, so go ahead and let's hear from the civilians first, and I see everybody else kind of is representing a certain applicant here. I guess you're going to speak for the county in general, aren't you?
Well, I was hoping, like usual, I usually ask, because I came to hear what y'all were going to discuss, and then maybe I would have something to add to it, but I have written something, and I'm happy to be here this afternoon, been out of town, didn't think I was going to make it back to this. As I told you in my email, my priority for the use of these funds is people. And in helping the people who have been most impacted by the reason for these funds, the COVID virus and economic recovery. We can help these people now to lead them on a path to a better life, or we can ignore them and build bigger jails, detention centers, spend more money on welfare and food stamps, along with subsidized housing.
Thank you. Do I need to start over? Okay, and many other government subsidies. This grant money is a perfect opportunity to help people in need, to help people break the cycle of poverty, to give people a chance. These nonprofits like Rancho Brazos and Forward Training do an amazing job. I'm sorry I couldn't find my notes this morning on all the nonprofits that applied, but these two stood out to me. As far as the other entities that applied, all are worthy causes and wants and needs, but these things we should be funding through the budget. I know traffic is annoying, but the idea that we should fund a road expansion from here to Crescent is not a good choice for this money, since we would have to borrow a significant amount to make that happen. And isn't part of this even within the city limits? I want to finish with a quote from Mayor Angelo. If it is true that a chain is only as weak as its weakest link, isn't it also true a society is only as healthy as its sickest citizen and only as wealthy as its most deprived? I think we should spend this money on the people that need it, and we should better fund our firefighters, our safety people, and those things through the county budget. Thank you.
Thank you. I think everybody else that's signed up is representing a charity or department head up here. So if any of the commissioners would like to say anything at this point before we ask for anything, please feel free to ask something. If not, I'll call upon different department heads to make their.
Well, I'll say this, Ricky Reeves, there's still a possibility that he may be able to get here with the Texas EMS portion of this. He let me know yesterday that the Department of State Health Services is doing an audit on his service right now. It's a scheduled thing. They come in and make sure that all the protocols and everything are being followed with his with the ambulances and everything. So they're doing that right now. This was something that was already scheduled. He said they may be able to get out and he may be able to be here later. But if not, then, I'd like to kind of fill in for him a little bit there toward the end if he doesn't get a chance to get in here, so.
Well, I think that's very important. EMS fulfills a really significant part of Hood County's safety and public health and welfare for the deal. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what.
Okay. Well, this is something that I've worked very closely. I think everybody knows that emergency responses are pretty near and dear to me, especially with the road construction that we've got coming in. Whenever we get to that point with the slowdowns, lane closures, and things like that, the county is obviously divided. In looking at the heat map where the calls are right now, I think the Day Cordova, Acton area is on schedule to be over 1,000 calls, as well as Indian Harbor Fire Department. And then whenever you consider Station 70 and Station 20 up on the north side, all of those areas, they're putting over 1,000 calls on those volunteer departments in those areas. Kind of our thought on this is if we can get EMS out into these perimeter areas, not outside real far, but just outside on the outskirts of the city limits there, they can respond into the further reaches of the county that much quicker. Right now, they're stationed behind Grumps down on 377, and being in La Pan, you're running through that same series of questions about 3 times, sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning on that ambulance to get there. So this would benefit the entire county. And of course, all of these stations would be built in conjunction with the fire departments in that area. We have, I've spoken with Dr. Glenn. 2 of the sites that we're looking at could potentially be on GISD property, what we would need to do to, a long-term lease or something to work out the arrangements with how to acquire that property and build those stations on that. The one at Bacchus would be in conjunction, I think, but Mr. Hohan and myself have spent a lot of time talking about that one also, and they've got the equipment that they can move into that station and respond on the fire side from there, along with the EMS responding from there. And then of course Indian Harbor, their station is kind of down inside Indian Harbor. This would get them out of the harbor itself a little bit closer to get out down 144. They've got a huge area there on the kind of the central, eastern, or western side of the county. They go all the way down to Somerville County. And then, of course, being over there on the east side on Day Cordova, getting out of that area to respond up to Crescent more quickly, and with all that, still being able to respond back inside the city limits. I think that this is this is very near and dear to me. I think that this is something that really moves our emergency services forward. It prepares us for the future, and it provides us, heck, another thing on top of this is we also have built-in voting centers that we can use. The training rooms that are going to be in these stations can be used for voting centers in the future also. So that's kind of the rough analysis there. I think there's some details that still need to be worked out with the land acquisitions and what we would need to do there. And then, of course, I think one of the caveats there would be that if Texas EMS is not the contracted provider with Hood County, at some point in the future, then these buildings would revert back to county property, and we could use those for whatever agency came in to provide that service in the area and still be utilized by the fire departments.
Well, EMS is not only very near to your heart, but it's very near and dear to the hearts of every citizen in Hood County. I mean, they provide a critical, necessary service to everybody. I mean, we saw that in COVID. They really stepped forward in COVID and expended a lot of their reserves and everything else during COVID. I mean, we got to make sure that EMS is strong and vibrant and able to serve this community. I mean, that we've got to have them, and they have the contract, like you said, to provide emergency services to everybody. So we need to really keep that in mind too. So I echo that. I think that's going to be an easy deal to say that they're going to certainly be entitled to some money, just how much and whatever, but we've got to help EMS out. Okay, any other commissioner want to say anything about EMS before we move on?
Yeah, I would add also to what Commissioner Andrews has said, that with the upcoming addition and modification to the bypass, we're outsourcing, outlocating the other stations where they can operate out of will become even more critical than it is now. And, given the, actual agenda item that said discuss the priorities for ARPA, that was my number one, out of the 22 that we've got, 23 rather. So, I mean, I won't hesitate, that is the, as far as I can see, that is the number one priority to support the citizens.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody else?
Well,
You want to say something, Jeff?
Judge, Commissioners. For those of y'all that don't know much about Ricky, he's been in this business forever. I can tell you there was a lot of thought process that went into the locations that were selected, primarily because of population growth and the roads. So the whole reason the areas that were picked are being presented is because that gets us closer to where the bulk majority of the calls are happening without having to cross the mess of 377 or 144 or all that. I do want to remind everybody that the stations that he is proposing are combination stations. They're both fire and EMS. The one station for Indian Harbor, so I was chief of that department years and years ago, and I can tell you we outgrew that station probably 10 years ago. That station was originally built, I think Roger's dad was one of the original shovel movers to build that station in 1972. And so the building's old. I mean, we've band-aided together for as long as we could, but for the equipment that they have and the personnel that they have and their needs, they've exceeded the space of that building years ago. The building they were talking about building, and I'll tell you how specific Ricky was on the locations. Ricky and I have argued over 0.2 of a mile for about a year and a half. Mm-hmm. He wanted to be on 144, and I told him from where they were at the gate of Indian Harbor, it's like 2 blocks and a stop sign. So he did put a lot of thought process into the location of where these are, and it was intended for co-locating with the fire department. So out of all of the items that were on there, this was one of the things that I would probably support wholeheartedly over a lot of them, to be honest with you. And as an option, I know several courts ago we talked about needing to borrow money to keep our debt rate where it needs to be. I would even propose maybe even considering taking the loan and building the stations, and you could utilize the ARPA funds for the other request. Just a thought. So that was my input on that.
But you do agree, very critical
Yes, sir, absolutely.
to EMS is very critical to Hood County.
I would say it's very critical to the citizens of the county, not so much EMS and the fire departments, but for them to get the response in the timely manner that they need it. Locating those equipment and those personnel into those locations are going to greatly reduce their response times because they won't have that mess on 377 to respond to, and they'll be closer to where the volume of those calls are taking place.
Thank you for saying that. That's what I was going to chime in, is that this, while we're saying EMS, this request is really EMS and fire. So
Correct.
That's all I was going to say, and I think it's very important as well.
Yes.
I think Commissioner Eagle might have had a comment.
Yeah, I don't have a question necessarily, but looking at the proposal that EMS brought in, the last meeting we had last month, is the request still, Commissioner Andrews, you still looking at 3.3 million? Is that the request?
Yeah, I think it's 3.4, it's 3.3 and some change.
3.376845.
Yes.
Well, that includes the generators. Yeah, the 76,000 is for generators, so that's going to be separated from the 3.3. So it's 1.1 per station.
And I will add, there will probably be a little bit of variance for the station at Indian Harbor because they would need to increase the bays on that one. I think the plans were for a 4-bay station. They would probably need to increase by 2 drive-through bays to give them the space they needed for the apparatus they've already got.
For which station?
Indian Harbor.
One of the things in the, looking at some of this in the past, also there's concern, I've got concerns, I'll put it that way. Some of the, who owns the properties that they're wanting to build on, control of the property.
Correct.
Either through donation, grant, long-term lease, whatever. I mean, there's still, I believe, more that, have concerns about who owns the property, who controls the property before you start building on it.
So I think the Bacchus and the Acton one is land that they were talking about donating from the school.
Okay.
I don't know how all of that plays out. It's my understanding that wasn't going to be hard to figure out. The one at Indian Harbor, I was just talking to Harper back there, and he said it's one phone call away from signing a 99-year lease.
Okay.
And so Indian Harbor's willing to give them that whole 7 acres for a 99-year, $1 a year lease, and if it's $100, I'll pay it out of pocket. So I think that deal at Indian Harbor, that's ready to go. It's just a matter of knocking down some trees and building a building. The other two, I would have to, I can't really speak to that. I don't know who they spoke to or where we stand on that, but it was my understanding it was not going to be difficult.
That's been an ongoing concern is, the actual control of the property by the fire departments.
Yes, sir. And I'm not even sure who the school board was wanting to donate the land to. I don't know if they're donating it to the fire departments or donating it to the county.
Yeah, there's still some details. I don't know as though it would necessarily need to be county-owned property if we worked out a long-term lease with the school district.
County-owned property, I'm just saying that there's the departments themselves, some of them do not have, legal control of the property they're setting on.
Right.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about with these, specifically with these 3 stations, all that, there's some details that we would need to work out, but I don't think that any of those would stand in the way. I think we
Right.
could get some significant long-term leases to control
So
that.
what I'm discussing is the 3 add-on, the 3 additional
Right.
stations. I know there are some other departments that are wanting to do some additions to theirs and stuff like that. And granted, if it were me, I could give them all the space I could give them. It would have been done yesterday. But I do understand, and I think I even brought that point to light when we started having these conversations about land ownership. And for the county side of it, and this is my part of the job where I protect the county interest also, for the county to spend money on land that we don't own and the fire department doesn't own is risky at best. So I've had a conversation with a couple of the chiefs, asking them if they could get the land donated to them so that they owned it before we put money into building renovations and everything else. So, yeah, I definitely understand that concern, but at the same time, I really would like to hope that they didn't ask for it if they didn't need it.
Good deal. All right.
Thank you.
Well, good. I think we're in agreement on that. Okay. On the next thing, let me just go ahead and throw out something on the thing. Sheriff Deeds, you want to come up here and talk about what the Sheriff's Department needs?
When I put in the first grant, then that was based on needs that we have, not wants. The county's never been in a position that we could get things that we really needed. We've always kind of pieced stuff together with the help of the buffer zone protection plan grant that we got the bulletproof vest for the deputies, but I'd like to get them protected more with the SWAT type vest and get the helmets. And like on the SWAT team, we've got vests that are out of date now, and I need to get the helmets are kind of the same way. So everything that was on that list, I'm not really wanting to take off, but, you know, I know there's give and take, and we need to work with everybody because, you know, I don't want to take anything away from fire departments or anybody else, but this is all stuff that we really need to, with the, even down to the pistols and all that. But the main things were those vests, helmets, night vision, rifles. I've only got 2 rifles that were ever purchased back 20 years ago that the county put the money up and purchased them. Otherwise, I got some that were pieced together from military surplus. That's 10 of those is all I ever got. And basically, everybody carries their own stuff. And I just want to be ready in case something bad happens, and we got everybody ready to go and not having to, who's going to worry about borrowing from who to get things going. So,
You know, there was some talk, Sheriff, about the fact that this $500,000 grant that the Lieutenant Governor's talking about, that I understand that we can make application, the application's ready, but you have to wait until January of 2024 to even make the application.
correct.
And then at least, they don't know exactly when they're going to fund the $500,000 and how it's going to come to us. So when I'm looking at stuff, and I think everybody in this room knows how I stand, that I want to protect all law enforcement officers. I mean, that's another critical deal. I don't want to lose one first responder of any type, whether it's fire, EMS, but especially our law department officers that are running towards danger all the time, and it's getting more dangerous every day. And I'm looking at the stuff about the ballistic helmets, the ballistic vests, the et cetera, the night vision, the guns that we don't have. There's some on there, you know, the Bearcat, that transportation automobile, I'm sorry, you're not going to get my vote on that. That's $300 and some odd thousand on it, and maybe the staccato pistols, you know. I shoot a Zev myself, pretty expensive, and I've got some Wilsons that are more expensive even than the staccatos, but to go around. But the other stuff that can save lives, you know, I think there's been some talk that let's go ahead and save some of that money, because the $500,000 that's going to come in, if in fact it all does come in, when is it going to get here? So if we got to wait the rest of November, December, January, and February, that's 4 months. I mean, a lot of tragedies and emergencies could come up in those 4 months that could result in the loss of life for our law enforcement officers before that money is made available, if it is all made available. You know how the state government works. It may not all come. They say you can make it, but is for sure going to get it? I'd like better if it was passed earmark and says, hey, on February 1st, you're going to get Hood County $500,000, Hood County Sheriff's Department. That's not the way it says. We're not guaranteed the money. And I want all the money spent, and then we don't have the money to properly ensure the safety of our first responders. I mean, we've been lucky so far. I mean, most of us that hunt, we have better equipment than the Sheriff's Department has, which means the bad guys, they got better equipment than our Sheriff's Department has. That's just not right. We get somebody coming in here from Dallas or whatever, and I shouldn't say Dallas, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, or New York City or Chicago, and they come down here, they got fully automatic weapons, they got all the ballistic proof helmets and vests. It would be an uneven match for our department. It would be a slaughter out there for our men, and I just think that, to me, the priority of getting that safety equipment for your men, the people that protect Hood County, and that's what I like about, you know, the incident that happened in Uvalde. I can think that there would be no officer that I know of, from whether it's from the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department, the constables, or anybody here in Hood County would allow that tragedy to happen that happened in Uvalde. Everybody takes it, they would come up here and they would protect this community. So a real priority for me is using enough of this ARPA money to protect our officers with all the list of the safety equipment that you've put on there. I'm a big believer in that, and I think that's what we should have. The money that comes in, I understand, can only be used out of that $500,000 grant, can only be used by the Sheriff's Department. But right now, what are there still 7 or 8 vacancies left in the jail deputies? Is that what's right now, is that the most current?
Yeah, as of today, we've got 7 openings in the jail. We've never got to full staff from a few years back when we got those raises. So I appreciate getting the pay up like we did, but I guess it needs to be up a little higher just to attract people to come to work to be jailers. And the same thing with the law enforcement. With the deputies, I'm so thankful that you guys authorized those 6 spots. And as of right now, today, I've only got 1 spot filled with a reserve that came on full-time. And we've got another guy in the jail that wants to come out, and he's a peace officer, but we got to get more in the jail before we can take him out of there. So, you know, it's a juggling act. So with the money from the $500,000 that we get, that was mainly supposed to be for money to get the pay up to a minimum standard. And so here's a suggestion of what I could do with it. We've talked for years about overtime money for the deputies instead of burning the comp time all the time. But just to start with, we need to get more money in place for the jailers. But I also put money in here for the deputies and dispatchers too. So just bring us up to a higher standard, because I'm not attracting people like we should be able to. So that's a plan if we get that 500,000. So.
Okay. And just to answer some questions about the timing, it says on the documentation we received that once the application is received, if the controller requires additional information, it must be provided within 14 days. And then the controller will determine whether the county receives an award within 90 days. The county must sign and return a grant agreement to receive the funds, and then the grants must be expended or legally obligated by the end of 2024. So just to answer the questions on timing, that's the information that we have.
Yeah, so it could be next summer before we get anything out of that.
It sounds like we'll know within 90 days of
January.
Of January 1st, yeah. So by the end of March, we should know.
That's when they say that they'll know.
Yeah.
But then when are you going to actually get the money? You know, so that's still waiting. that's 90 days plus from here to January 1, that's another, 60 days? So you're talking about 5 months in waiting. I mean, that's why it's so critical right now to get this money to buy this necessary equipment to protect these men's lives now. That's what I'm saying. And then
Women.
the $500,000 that you're getting, it can be easily going towards what this handout that you just give us to boost up to get qualified people here to come here and work. I mean, it's not like this is just going to be a slush fund that's waiting around here to be done. There's places for it with the jail, the deputies, the dispatch, right away. Anybody else have anything to say?
And I'm looking at the quotes that, were provided with the request. It appears that they're all out of date, or close to it if they're not. So, my concern would be also, do we, need to go back and re-quote all of the items that you're looking for, to make sure where we're at.
I can,
And looking at them, the quotes have expired.
yeah, we can definitely do that right away. I can,
They may issues, and some of them have already said that they're expired in 90 days, so we're past the 90 days.
yeah, I wanted to be the first one to submit a grant, so I did, and yeah, so all these are old, so yeah, I'll get on it and get updated price quote. I'll start working on that today. But yeah, I'd appreciate it if you could help with the safety equipment. I need to protect these guys so they can be out there to protect the citizens, so.
Okay. Anybody else want to say anything about this topic? Okay, if not, thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Good information. It looks like you're on top of it. You got that, you're ready to file. When they say the first day to file, you're going to have that grant there.
Yes, she will.
That day, huh? Okay, good. All right. Okay. I guess the next thing, I see all these fire department people out here. I see Chief Becker giving me the stink eye up there. I've already told him on the deal. I mean, Chief, you want to come up here? Kick it off for the fire departments here up here. And for yours, in general first, and then you can specify it down the question.
Well, we've talked about fire departments in this room for 2 years, and, it's a broken record, whether you talk about roads in Hood County, whether you talk about law enforcement or EMS, we're all under the same pressures of all these people coming in. And of course, the east side of the county where I kind of serve is right at the forefront of that because of its proximity to the Metroplex. I think all of our fire departments are trying to do the job kind of with 10 to 15 to 20 year outdated response capabilities. I know that that's part of the problem that our department has with its building facility, Like I told you guys a couple of weeks ago at your meeting, back when our station was built, this department was handling 100 calls a year, and now we're handling 10 times that. And to say that you can keep doing that out of a facility that was designed and worked for a tenth of it is just not going to work. I think that we're on the right track, and the county's on the right track with some of these co-located EMS and fire facilities. I will tell you that that's the way that you're seeing it go to a large extent in Parker County and in Johnson County, and it's working. That's part of the reason why on the proposition that we put forward, we want to make sure while we don't build it today, that we have the space allocated, the 2 stories, if you will, so that when it comes time, and it's not a question of if, it's when it comes time that EMS needs to base an ambulance up in Crescent, that the facility is there, that we can co-locate and make it work without being back in here asking for another $1.1 million plus inflation, and that day is coming. There's no doubt about it. I told you guys that the mayor here, she keeps track. Every time I go to a city council meeting, she's got a new plat in there. I know y'all are dealing with that too, but we've got, the city of Crescent itself has platted on this side of the railroad tracks. If you remember, right now we've got over 3,300 lots platted. And the houses are coming up, the roads are coming in, and obviously we've got to be ahead of it rather than behind it. And I think the proposal that Crescent's putting together tries to commingle that EMS response deal down the road. The only other update, and I sent you guys an email, is we were fortunate that on October 23rd, we did get the grant from Texas Forest Service for just under $250,000 towards a new tanker. And we today have verbally committed to a large tanker, a 4,000-gallon tanker, because we can do it. And I will be tonight at a meeting in another county to start to solidify the rest of the funding to go together with that. And I believe we're going to be able to put that truck in service at no cost to Hood County. But we don't have anywhere to put it. If we don't get the expansion of the facility, just the bare bones thing like we're trying to do, this will be a new truck, we'll run it, but I'm going to have to mothball a couple of trucks to have a place to put it, which is not good. And the only thing I will say in closing is all you got to do is look at what we've had in Tarrant County this year. When we're fighting these larger house fires in a non-hydranted area, we're generally using about 20,000 gallons of water on these things. And what's going to be facing Crescent and the east part of the county is the drastic need for additional water hauling capacity. We're there today, and like I told you, I can take you and show you 2 houses in Tarrant County where those departments only were running 1 tanker and they both burned to the ground. And we were blessed that at the time we had a fire over there on a large house too, just under 3,000 square foot. We had loan of a 3rd tanker from Parker County, and we kept that thing such that that house is just finishing up being rebuilt, keep it from burning down. That's what's going to be what we're going to be facing all the way from Granbury to the east, just as soon as these things start to come out of the ground, and they're already coming up out of the ground. So we've got to have this water hauling capacity, or we're going to lose some of these houses. And the other departments are in need of water hauling capacity too. It's not just Crescent, but we're going to be on the forefront of it because of the type of houses that are being built over there, the bigger type of houses, and it just takes a little more water to do those. So I think hopefully we did a good job of explaining at the last meeting how we have tried to glue together the cheapest way we think we can come up with to try to keep our service level up. And I'll take any questions that anybody has, both on my behalf or the fire service in the county in total, sir.
Well, I'd like to say one thing. I commend you for your vigilance and jumping on that grant, because it was just a limited number of grants, and you jumped on. Were you the first one to get the grant out of it?
Well,
you weren't. You were second. So I like you getting that $250,000, and that's because of you paying attention.
Well,
so I like that.
Because it's the same thing as what we're talking about today. If you're fighting yesterday's fire, you're behind. Just like they say, if you're fighting the last war, and running an army, you're behind. Our job, my job, all of these department chiefs' job is we got to be a little bit ahead of the curve, because if we're behind, like you say, on some of the protective equipment for the sheriff's office, if it doesn't do much good if we get somebody hurt before the stuff comes in. And I think all of your departments are trying to do a good job of trying to say, this is what we see coming and what we're going to have to figure out a way to do, or we're going to lose property and, heaven forbid, worse.
Anybody in the commission have any questions?
There's several requests for tankers by the various departments, and, the price spread is
Yes, sir.
pretty massive. I would suggest that possibly there be some collaboration between the chiefs and hone in on a standardized.
If you will recall, a couple of years ago when we stood before you and presented kind of the across-the-board needs, at that time, all the chiefs had landed on a certain tanker design. Now, granted, that was roughly a couple of years ago. In Crescent's situation, I can't wait for that. The Forest Service grant that I've got has a 12-month execution time. We found a truck that, granted, we're doing a little bit bigger, that is already on the line being worked on, and we've got a delivery date that we verbally committed to today in the range of 260, 280 days. So, I've got to be moving. I can't let ours do. Yes, but I can't argue with you that we standardized on the pumper tankers. It was a smart thing to do. Somebody from Lipan can come and operate the Crescent one, and same sort of thing. All I can tell you is that the tanker that we're fixing to try to flange up getting is the similar design of what Granbury just got, so that at least we've got some compatibility there. But granted, I've got this grant working, and so we had to be cranking. And because we're going to do a larger truck, it's 4,000 gallons is more expensive than 3,000, but we can make it work with what we're able to glue together. But yes, sir, I can't. Obviously, there's no reason. I would be telling you, if I didn't have this Forest Service grant and wasn't having to move on, I would be singing the second verse of what you're saying.
And I think, Jack, if Jeff handed this out when we got here, so Jeff has gone through and come up with a standard and gotten a price for it. But I do have one question for you while he's walking up. So the property that this would be built on, is that owned by?
Yes, ma'am. I meant to mention that this property the fire department owns.
Okay.
So the ownership of the land on our proposal is not an issue.
And just one other thing, Jack, I don't want anyone to miss what you're saying. Where's your microphone? Okay, there you go.
I heard him.
Okay, I just want to be sure it's all recorded.
But thank you for considering.
I got a couple.
Yes, Dave.
In the last couple of years, or maybe 3 coming on, we've been having trouble just getting like Tahoes and vehicles like that. It's taken sometimes 18 months. So are you in a position to some extent, you got to get what you can get? Is that right?
Yes, but fortunately for us, we have been able to find a tanker similar to what Granbury got about a year ago or so, in a large, granted an extra 1,000 gallons, that's already started to be in production, and we can latch onto it. Are we lucky? Yeah, I guess you would say we were a little bit lucky, because I can tell you that some of the other quotes we were getting are more out in the 2-year range and all, and technically my Forest Service grant's a 12-month thing. They'll extend it a little bit, but you don't want to, I don't want to be in a big expensive hole counting on that extension, so.
Well, I'm just kind of curious about these 3,300 lots.
Yes, sir.
What is the timeline on finishing this? I mean, are they going to be by well, or you got a mud coming in, or how's the water going to work? How's the wastewater going to work?
All of the above. Crescent, you know, and now I'll take off my fire chief hat, put on my city council hat. We've got a little bit different approach to some cities, and the mayor is here, and she, as she's wont to do, will correct me if I'm wrong. We respect people's property rights out there. If you own a tract of land and, you know, it's something fairly reasonable that you want to do, we're going to tell you, okay, come ahead on and do it. But we are not going to try to saddle our existing tax base to put infrastructure in for you. Hence, you will see that in the Crescent area, there have already been created a couple of MUDs to take care of exactly what you're talking about. There are other of these subdivisions that are doing the 2-acre lots and are doing private wells. Some have been talking about community water system. All are going on most are going on aerobic, although one of the MUDs is doing an expansion of our little existing sewer treatment plant that services Crescent Crossroads. So we're kind of saying, you know, if come ahead on, but you're going to have to pay your tab for what you need from an infrastructure standpoint. And I guess time will tell if we're smart or dumb in doing it that way as a city. But that's kind of been the approach that we've been taking, and it doesn't seem to have slowed anybody down on platting and road building and houses coming up out of the ground.
And speaking of that, are you having them, the developers, are they putting in all the roads that for their, so you got them doing that too?
Yes,
See,
sir.
I think that's a great approach. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's a great approach. And have you got any idea, have any of these guys, these people doing these 3,300 lots, are any of them projecting what they think that they'll be complete, you know, that you'll see 3,300 do?
Well, if you've ever dealt with developers, they'll all be done in a year. You know, they kind of see things,
It's true.
I guess I would say, with a little more rose-colored glasses than I think is probably realistic. I would probably say that these 3,300 lots have a real good chance in about 5 to 6 years to being 75% built out, and that's just me.
That's reasonable.
Making a guess.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
I mean, all I got to tell you is if you had been, and I was sort of telling the judge, you know, not last night, but the night before, between 6:30 and 7:30, we had 3 different accidents on Highway 377, right with the drive-home traffic. And if you wanted to see a traffic jam and us juggling, trying to get people through, you know, we had one where a poor gentleman, pedestrian, got hit right in town, and so we had to run a helicopter for him and to talk to the EMS that eventually will have to be up in Crescent. Texas EMS was level 0, so it was a Pecan ambulance that came up. Granted, all they had to do was drive from the site to the landing zone, and we had done all the interventions that he needed with him laying on the road, in the middle of the road. But if you want to see, I know you guys don't need to be told what it's like with people coming back and forth from the east side going into the Metroplex, but you take a wreck at 6:30, just one of them, much less 3. And if you want to see a lot of headlights, all you got to do is come out there and watch us when we get in those type of situations. I will say I was kind of proud of our department, you know, to handle 3 of those things simultaneously. And we had another call going in we had 16 of us out between all of those different things. And I will say that that's another reason why we need to add the tanker that we're getting from the Forest Service and be able to use it, because we do have the staffing, we do have the manpower to put this thing to work.
And you're kind of putting a little bit of an exclamation point on the concept or the idea or the projection that we're going to need to have some way, possibly Old Granbury Road, possibly something south of 370 on the south in Commissioner Wilson's area to get around 377 sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And possibly even a loop, coming out of Temple Hall Highway and go all the way around to hit 51. I don't know, but we got to do something there too.
Oh, yeah, I'm not naive enough to think that all our roads are up to what's coming. We know they're not. I mean, and all I can say from a fire department standpoint is I've got the same number of people coming through and having wrecks, whether you put them on multiple roads or one road. Granted, one road probably a little better chance of having a fair amount of accidents, but obviously the transportation issues, whether it's us, whether it's Parker County, Parker County just did another transportation bond on this past election. It did pass. And I don't have to tell you about the Johnson County part. All of us are in the same sort of shapes kind of surrounding the west side of Tarrant County, and wherever all these folks are coming from, they seem to like you guys and being here.
Well, it's like I've said before, the first year I went to college from my little hometown, I drove through Frisco, Texas to go to Arlington, and there were 4 gas stations one on each corner, and that was it.
Yeah.
Everything else was black dirt farm. And look at Frisco now, Jerry World. So, thank you.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
I hope you'll give good consideration. Obviously, I'm most concerned about Crescent, but these other departments are trying to do the same thing we are. We would be derelict if we weren't coming in here telling you we see what's going on and what we've got to be trying to take care
One
of.
thing we can all be in agreement about, you need water to
Yes,
fight
sir.
fires like you and I are talking about. There's very few fire hydrants down in rural Hood County. I haven't seen any, have you?
No.
And that's why I'd like for Jeff Young to come up here and talk about these tanker trucks and see about getting some tanker trucks, because everybody responds to a big fire. And so if we had 3,000 gallon tankers to come up here and rotate them and stuff, we could probably be prepared to meet a real big fire. And so that's, I was
in
talking to
charge
Jeff
of the-
about last week or 10 days ago.
we had that fire, a couple of years ago on Meander Road, the gentleman with Grumps, and I was in charge of the water supply on that. Now, we were fortunate because we had the Granbury hydrant about 4 miles down the road, and we kept up with it at about 700 gallons a minute, but let me tell you, I sure could have used 2 or 3 more tankers. We had tanker all the way from Lipan on that fire, and I've been there when you're trying to juggle it, and when you're looking at the gauge and you got about 500 gallons of water and they're flowing about 1,000 gallons of water, and you're looking and here comes the next one down the road, you just say, I hope he will get here before I have to shut him off. And you've got to, you all are so blessed with your volunteer fire department staff in Hood County. You've got people that we know how to do the water supply that we need to do. If we just have the tools and the ability to have a place to put it, we can deliver for you.
I know you can. Okay, Jeff Young, come up here and talk to us about that. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, thank you.
Talking about the expansion, Crescent is growing as well as a lot of the other places in Hood County. I think we're one good night's sleep away from waking up to the nightmare that we've become a little Burleson. However, if we invite 186,000 of our closest friends to come move into Hood County, we could adopt codes, and then we could take care of all this water issue, because then we could require hydrants and everything else. But when we get to 250,000 people, I'm moving. I'm just saying. So I got the email from Commissioner Samuelson, and the judge and I talked early this week. Of course, y'all know I had a little bit of a nightmare to wake up to myself on Monday, so I didn't get started on this till yesterday. I did get 2 of the vendors that I called, had actually sent me some information or quotes on these trucks, and I basically told them, look, I want 4 tanker trucks, all alike, to speed up the build, hopefully get a little bit of a price cut. Granted, they're going to give me a bigger price cut if I order 40 trucks than I am if I order 4. But that being said, if you look at the first page that has the Siddons Martin logo on it, the very bottom of that, he gave me a price range of $440,000 to $510,000. And that's per tanker. On the second page, the one from Metro Fire, they gave me a proposal of $454,186 for a total cost of about $1.8 million. This truck in particular is the same make and model as the truck that Granbury just bought. It's just on a little bit smaller chassis. This one is on the T480 and yours was on the what?
T880.
Theirs was on the T880. So it's a little bit bigger engine, a little bit beefier suspension, but overall, aside from that, it's pretty much the same truck. So Kevin and I spoke in person a little bit earlier this morning. That would be those trucks coming without all of the equipment and the tools and the hose and all of that stuff on there. I think if you were to allocate about 2.1 towards the purchase of 4 trucks and outfitting them and ready to go, we could get them distributed to the places that need them the most. Now, granted, this was this is 2 days of work. I've still got a couple others that told me it would be about 4 weeks before they could actually draft together an actual quote to put these together, but just shooting off the cuff, this is what I've been able to come up with in 2 days.
And from your experience, the other vendors will be, I mean, these are pretty close. If you
They're
take
all
the-
gonna be ballpark.
If you take the average of 440 and 510, you're
And
close to that
454.
454.
Right.
Maybe not the exact average, but within the range. So the other vendors probably within the same range, or do you have any experience that one of them is better?
For the specs on this truck, yes, they would all be in the same range.
Okay.
Of course, fire trucks are like cars. You can drive a Pinto or you can drive a Mercedes. So if you get a custom cab, 4 seats, everybody's, it's basically a fire engine that carries a lot of water. I mean, you can specify the snot out of these things and make them be $1 million if that's what you want to do. I think our goal is to get water to the places that need the water.
So 2.1 for 4 tankers is a good, you'd think that's a good estimate?
I think at 2.1, I could get 4 tankers, 3,000-gallon tankers, and get them distributed where they need to be.
And that,
Talked about the allocation, about, every fire department comes to a big fire up there, so have
Yes,
you
sir.
talked about which fire department would get the tankers?
Who has room to store them?
I think if I were to call and tell them I had a tanker to bring over there, they would make space.
Okay.
right, and I went and spoke to some of these chiefs and said, okay, guys, let's get down, what's your priority here? What do you most need? And these 4 tankers that we talked about right here would be for De Cordova, North Hood County, Station 70, and Lipan. Those are the requests of those departments are a tanker would be a priority for those 4 departments. So I'll speak for Lipan, we'll find a place to park it.
Good job.
The key is getting
quick.
water. Until we can require the MUDs, the utilities to install hydrants, which a lot of them will not, because when they were built, they built with smaller PVC pipe that they think is not thick enough. There's some, like, I think it's Mallard Point over here, they've got a whole neighborhood full of black hydrants. The black hydrant indicates they don't want us to use it because they're afraid we're going to put suction on that hydrant and it's going to collapse their water system. What they don't realize is we don't put a draft on a hydrant. If we open the hydrant and no water comes out, then we go look somewhere else. But in the meantime, for all those neighborhoods that do not have hydrants, our next best option is to shuttle that water in tankers.
We can't fight a fire without water, though. That's the the priority is to have the water, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I'm
And
not a
although
firefighter.
we all have 9 different names on our fire shirts, you could probably look at our fire service as being one, because they all mutual aid to one another. They all work well together. So, you know, we could have a fire in Crescent and call Lipan, and they're going to come. So,
Good. Okay. I guess, to be fair about this thing up here, we would like for the various fire departments to come up here. I think what we've talked about so far with everybody here, it's pretty much the same with all the fire departments, but the fire departments that are here to come on up here and talk about Granbury, why don't you come up here and give us a little spiel and tell us about your deal. You see where we're coming from, you know how much money we got. We're talking about 4 tankers that we really do need in this county for everybody to share with. We got a big fire, everybody, Granbury, Lipan, Toll, we're all going to be sharing water up here, right?
Yes, sir.
So give me a quick synopsis here, okay? Because we're going to have to move on for other people to talk to.
Judge, Commissioners, appreciate the time and opportunity. Recently, this last weekend, I came off of a leadership seminar, and one of the main themes there was the difference between leadership and management. Leadership, you're at a 36,000-foot view, and management, you're issuing tasks. And I don't envy the job you have in front of you. The kicker with this is every single department has a little bit of a customized need, a little bit of a tweak to it. And the thing I'll add to this, and it goes to a recruitment and retention speech that I always give. The difference between commitment and involvement is like in ham and eggs breakfast. The pig was committed and the chicken was involved. In this room, you have a bunch of people that are committed to their organizations. They have an education, experience, background, and time, energy, and effort spent on their organizations. They've come forward with a proposition that's best for their agency, and something to remember in this, and this goes to the tankers. Your volunteer fire service, particularly in Hood County, is only as strong as your mutual aid. And the tanker network is critical to your fire service here in Hood County. And I'm not saying that there's not other trucks and projects that aren't really critical, because they are. But those tankers are critical. You have to have that water moving. And it's got to be able to move in more than one direction. It's really common today to have a lot more than one call happening at the same time. 1 tanker's fantastic, 2's glorious, 12's the answer. Obviously, that's not 12. But you get my point. You have different parts of the county, different calls at the same time. You need trucks to be able to go different directions. The other thing that'll compound this, and I'm going to hint back on the EMS discussion just for a second, looking forward, taking a stance and trying to figure out how is emergency services going to look in Hood County at year 2, 5, 15. I will always be reverting back to the 377 expansion project, and the discussion that I'm having in regards to that is based off of 2 natural barriers that you're going to have in Hood County. The first one is the lake, so east and west travel will be blocked, and 377, that will be a barrier, is soon to stop your north and south travel. And these EMS stations and the additions that the departments are looking for on their buildings, they are going to be vital. I can't underestimate and understate how vital these expansions and extra apparatus are going to be. We will have to reevaluate our box alarm assignments, because I guarantee you will not be able to get across 377 at certain times of the day. You will not be able to get across the lake. We have 9 departments. There's dozens of stations. There's even more being added to it, apparatus being added to it. That's being forward-thinking and progressive and preparing for something that we know, we think we have an idea at how gnarly and bad this is about to get. Just remember, that's not a 2-year project on 377. It's not a 5-year project. And when you start taking the development in the east and you get the traffic jam that actually now officially starts in Crescent's, once the bypass is completed, that's where the traffic jam starts. Then you got to get across the lake, but at least 144, there's only one way to get to 144. You still got to get across the lake. So that is my synopsis on this. I ask that the commissioners and the judge seriously look at how big of an impact these 4 trucks really will have for the departments, what these station projects actually have the impact for, and what that emergency service response is going to look like, not tomorrow, quite frankly, not even at 2025 or 27. What does it look like in 2030? Because that's when you're in the heart of this. That's when the expansion's going to be moving across the bridge and going east across Granbury. That's when the true, just catastrophic destruction is going to happen. And we're going to have to be able to still deal with getting units north and south of 377 and getting them east or west across the lake. And it'll fundamentally change the fire response in Hood County because of that. Thank you.
Well, did you want to hit on your specific request?
Yeah, I
for
can speak about
Granbury
my
that's-
specific requests. The 2 requests that I have is the first one's the full support for Ricky Reeves' station. I have a direct benefit of that for the station that's potentially located at Bacchus. Obviously, that station's particularly out on the loop. The impact that would have for me is gigantic. I have a potential for a huge population growth in that direction. It's also going to really help in my mutual aid response to 2 other districts that have quite a bit of fire call for us, and that would be going into Station 20's district and into Station 70's district. I know Ricky is meeting with Dishes today, so I'll speak for Ricky's response there. He's got the exact same problem from the Lake Bridge point of view that we have to deal with, and being able to be out there on the loop puts him exponentially closer to 20, 70, Lipan, Toller, and then, of course, the Indian Harbor Station on the south side of 144 significantly takes a huge amount of pressure off of his emergency responses there. My second project is just the payoff of the tanker that I bought at the fall of last year. Took an opportunity with the subsidy that was provided by the commissioners, and we bought a truck. The question of buying the truck was interest rates are about to spike, but the price was good. And we were able to take full advantage of the fact that we had the money, we had the opportunity to sign the contract, so we took it. As we were signing the contract, the interest rates went up a little bit, but frankly, I got lucky and I saved $150,000 just because of timing. So just in the long run, it was good luck. The particular project I'm working on is just trying to get that truck paid off. There's some gray area with that truck, and I realize I'm not 100% sure how that would work. In the past, Texas Forest Service has had similar contracts through the fire reimbursement program. I think that's the wrong name for it. They would buy the truck, but if that was the case, the department retained the truck. They retained the title. I'm particularly interested in that because I need the collateral. Any truck that is purchased and paid off, I'm turning around and buying another truck. This time it makes it 1,000 times easier though because I have collateral. I'd have no problem entering into a concrete terms of service contract with the county guaranteeing use and access to the apparatus. Can't sell the truck under that contract. Can't modify the truck without the county's permission. I wrote a very, very rough, basic contract just yesterday and sent that to Commissioner Andrews. I assure you, Matt Mills, he'd probably baby seal club that pretty quick. That's okay. I understand that. I was just trying to really show that I'm more than willing to work with the county on if you do elect to pay off the truck. Like I said, my intent is I need to keep the truck because I plan on buying another one and I need the collateral. So more than willing to work with whatever that looks like there. At the end of the day, if I have to pick, I pick a station, put my theoretical possible allocated money towards Ricky Reeves' project. That's looking forward. That is looking down the road. It'd be nice to be able to have the extra cushion and being able to turn around and just address the current needs of the department and apparatus. Station's more important, period. Any questions?
So in order of priority, just to make sure I'm sure, because I'm looking back at what we talked about a month ago, you had a brush truck, generator, cab. Your priority would be the extra facility, then tankers, and then paying off your loan. Is that the order that you're kind of standing up here telling us?
For Granbury, our priority would be the Texas EMS station and the payoff of our truck.
Okay.
From a community point of view, I'd still be Texas EMS, the additional auxiliary stations, and tankers.
Okay,
Thank you.
good.
Okay.
Yeah, and I went and spoke with different chiefs, and that was one of the things is let's narrow this down. And, we talked about various projects, and everybody came in with the priority. So.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Doing well. I just wanted to speak real quick. I'm from Station 70. We're asking for a tanker. The way Jeff has those 4 priced out is about what we were asking. We weren't looking for a Mercedes tanker. We were looking for one that would suit our needs right now. As y'all know, we have no fire hydrants in my area. 64 square miles, not a hydrant one. So when we do have a fire, I'm calling for everybody to bring a tanker. So to be able to roll out with our engine and a tanker would put us in a great advantage in controlling that fire when we arrived, as to having to wait an additional 5 or 10 minutes for more water. That's
it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Come on. Are you going to echo the deal about needing tankers? You agree with that?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Matter of fact, just getting ready to approach the bench and say, I'm on the bandwagon. I submitted the ARPA grant, some time ago whenever we first started reviewing them. And my focus at that time was like an engine that could carry rescue equipment. But really, the tanker I have today is 30 years old, and it's a 10 2-speed, and only 2 of my members can drive it effectively. I can get it there, but real slow, because I'll grind the gears. I'm not effective at driving I couldn't be a truck driver today that drives that kind of a transmission. But anyway, I'm exactly on the bandwagon of these other chiefs that have declared that we need to move water in the county. I do have some areas with hydrants, but we're not going to have that great amount of pressure. And so, Bentwater, where I live in Laguna Vista, Lantana, they have tanked water and they have hydrants, but it's not much. As you drive through these places, you'll see they're black hydrants. Black tells you low pressure, or red tells you low pressure. And so I'm on the bandwagon, those 3 items: generator, boat, things like that. I can do fundraisers. I can get some of the toys I desire by going that route. But, I understand that y'all have the burden, of allocating this money, and thank you for your time and the weight that's on your shoulders for doing it. I know you can't give everybody what they want. It's like that. Everybody is doing that, and my focus right now would be a tanker. I did receive, and it's public record, I did receive a grant from the Texas Forestry Service for what they call a large frame chassis. Well, I don't think for $110,000 I can get enough frame to support my current old tank that's on my old tanker. You know, today's Ford and Chevy trucks are $60,000 for a half-ton, and so the chassis are very expensive. But I'll make that work for, like, where I said I needed an engine to carry rescue equipment. I'll make that work to where it carries another chassis to carry rescue equipment. And so, but I need to move water to my mutual aid areas, and that would be my focus right now because of the current situation I'm in with my tanker. I have maybe 3 other members that can drive it like me. You give me an automatic tanker, and I've got 10 members that can drive it almost every day. And 2 of the effective members that can drive my current tanker are full-time day job people. You know, they're not around during the week, during the day. So I need an automatic. And today's tankers, you can have them equipped where they can do what you call a fast attack. They have speed lays on them where you can start an attack just in case it was the first thing in. But as far as shuttling water, which they're designed for, it is essential to a lot of these fires we have to where, you know, any commander in charge, he gets his first sigh of relief whenever he hears 2 to 3 tankers checking en route. It's not just the engines, it's his water, you know, that he needs. And I thank y'all for your time today. Any questions? And there again, the revisions that are, you know, in other words, I've had a change of mind, and what I had put in for the ARP grant before you changes to my priority as a tanker truck.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. You're next. All right. Then you're next, okay?
Yeah, I need that.
Judge, Commissioners, thanks. I'm from Pecan. Chief Paxton wanted to be here. He has a medical operation going on today, so he couldn't make it, so he sent me. We're kind of in a unique position. We don't really need the tanker. We've got hydrants, and we don't really have the problems with 377, but what we do have a problem with is our building. It's really inadequate. Ron was mentioning most of the buildings for the fire stations are 30 years old. So for us, we have no training room. We have one bathroom that my shoulders touch on both sides of the wall.
You can't
and that's
get in.
for all of our members to share. So our proposal was actually for an aerial truck, a generator, and a building renovation. And Chief talked it over, and we've narrowed that down to just the building renovation. And we're working on, you know, trying to get with some of the other builders that others are using to try to work out a cheaper deal. We did get one proposal back so far. It's going to be $100,000 more than what's on the paper because they didn't do the concrete, I think. This is just the first one we got. We're working on a couple others.
So this is for the 2-story add-on? It's $494? That's not...
$594, I think, around $600, I guess.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, they didn't do the concrete work on that one.
Oh, so I thought you meant it was $100,000 more than what was on your ARPA grant.
No,
And this is a lot less than what's on the ARPA grant.
Yeah, we tried to narrow it down as best we could.
Good.
So, and like I said, we've got a couple other quotes we're still working on. But like everybody, our call volume's going up, and we need the ability to house more members. Right now, we're limited on who we can get in from Pecan, and we're trying to build this renovation so we have actual quarters for people to stay so we can get people from outside our community. We're a retirement community, so most of our members are retired, and they're starting to fall off the radar, so.
What?
Well,
I'm just teasing you.
We've got about 10 guys that show up consistently to our calls, and of those 10, 2 of them are 18 or 19. They're working on going on to paid stations and leaving, and the ones that are older are starting to get old and tired and not want to do it anymore. So we're trying to bring in outside members so we can have them stay at the station. And of course, our call volume's going up about 25% a year for the last 5 years. And with the new building, you know, our numbers are going to skyrocket. We also have another big neighborhood going in, and we're projecting, you know, another 2,000 or 3,000 residents in Pecan alone, which will put us up close to 10.
Yeah, we'll have 10,000 people in Pecan in a couple of years, plus Treaty Oaks expansion, Lucre Ranch expansion, all down power plant.
The power plant, so.
Yeah, so there's going to be 15,000 people, depending on.
one number is up around 20,000, I
Yeah,
think.
I was going to say 20, but I was trying not to overshoot it, so.
So,
Yeah, so that's a large area, and so to staff that, I've gone through there many times, and
Yep.
there's, I can barely fit into the bathroom door, so I don't know how you guys fit through there, especially if you've got equipment on. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Tricky. But, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for getting a new quote, that really helps a lot.
Let this guy go first, okay? Yeah, Ray. All right.
Judge, Commissioners, thank you for giving the opportunity. I'm with Station 50 in Indian Harbor. We're working with Ricky with the station and everything like that. We have the property ready to go, everything with that. The 2 grants that we put in were for the small pumper, the mini pumper. That is strictly to get more of our members being able to drive to get on scene faster than our engine. So right now, out of the 20 members that we have 6 that are qualified to drive, and then out of that 6, there's only 4 of us that have the pumper training that we're working on. This one, with the mini pumper, it's a 550 Ford truck. Anybody can drive that truck. So it's going to get more people faster to scenes. It's going to carry our rescue equipment for vehicles, extractions. It's going to be able to have 500 gallons of water on that and be able to hook up and do 1,500 gallons a minute if you hook it up to a hydrant. And then our second one was our boat. So we have until Dave Cordova got their smaller boat, that we have the only fire boat in the county. The boat that we put forward in the grant, it does more than just a fireboat. It has, night vision for search and rescues. It has down scan and side scan for, drownings, vehicles in the water. And it's also got a 1,500 gallon a minute pump that we can pump directly out of a lake to. That's where we're going for water. We can pump directly out of the lake and fill some of these tankers up, that 1,500 gallons a minute, plus run lines on it. So it basically has the same pump on the boat as an engine would on that.
Yeah, and that can be absolutely critical because, there are places in the county that are pretty remote from hydrants. So even having the tankers, you've still got to refill them and get them back to
Absolutely.
a place
We've
for
been
water.
on, boat dock fires and, house fires on there. We have, with the pump that we have now, we can barely run one line off of our pump to fight a fire. We do have the deck gun on it. You can't run both at the same time. With this pump, you'd be able to run multiple lines and fill up a truck.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a few minutes break right now before I think we've got people out of the way, and then we'll get with everybody else. We're going to take a 10-minute break, okay? Okay, it's 3:18, and we're back here on the record. I think we've heard enough from the fire departments, haven't we? on
Well,
the deal?
I think we got one more.
That had spoken? Who?
Toller.
Oh, I thought you were the town marshal on the thing. Come on up, Ray Wilson.
I'm also the assistant fire chief.
Okay, oh,
He wears multiple.
I mean, you got 3 hats, you're
He's
the dog
wearing-
catcher too?
He's
Dog
wearing
catcher.
multiple
so-
hats.
Don't bring up dog.
Okay, yeah, I was warned that everybody say clearly who you are when you come up to speak, so we know who you are, but say for the record here who you
My
are.
name's Ray Wilson. I'm here to represent the Toller Volunteer Fire Department as their assistant chief. I kind of got thrust into this meeting about 20 minutes before it occurred, so I didn't even realize it was coming up. Chief Hutzel was working on this, but it came up he couldn't make it, so I'm kind of on the fly here. I know him and Commissioner Andrews have done a lot of talking with each other about this project, so I'm going to ask him not to let me go too far in left field of what him and Matt have discussed. I would say I agree and would support the shared departments, the EMS and fire buildings that were discussed earlier. As far as Toller, we're doing what we can on that. We are right now constructing our own at our expense, a station down in the Paluxy area off Paluxy Highway, Prairie Creek addition is where we're close to. And that's the whole purpose, to try to take care of that southwest corner of the county that's in our fire district. Our request is for a pumper tanker, which is similar to what the county-owned engines are right now, Engine 91, the 2,000-gallon trucks. We would like to, hopefully we can move forward with that one for a department in order to help have adequate and fire coverage for that extra station down that way. We would potentially request consideration that with the refurbishes that have been going on with those trucks, the $350,000 that's been approved for each of the department's trucks, possibly use some of that county money towards the purchase of this proposed vehicle that we're looking at now, which would help lessen the amount of the money requested to purchase that vehicle. The other half of that could be, once it is purchased, the current county-owned truck, which would be a couple of years older now, like everybody else's, utilize that as a sale in order to recoup some more of our loss, or if you want to call spending the ARPA money as a loss, but to recoup that money back in to the county to be used, wherever else for equipment, personnel, whatever cost it needs to go to, that would be y'all's call, not mine. But yes, just to reiterate, that I would hope to, I would support the EMS stations because, as Chief Hohan had said from Granbury, once they start that construction on 377, it's going to be hard for anybody to get around anywhere. So it's going to be a lot of depending on, like in my districts with Toller, Lipan, Indian Harbor can probably get there, but I can see them having to go south and then across the county instead of coming up towards 377 with the 144 exchange being worked on. We're probably having to really depend on Bluffdale and Somerville counties to come out with these additional stations. That would allow Granbury to be able to come in and help us if they were out located on the loop, as was suggested, along with any of the others like the Station 70s. And that calls not just for the firefighting, but for the EMS service. And if you look at it, EMS accounts for usually just a little over half the calls, or right at, is what we're averaging. So the citizens do, I think they need both ways. But
yeah, and, Matt had called yesterday and got a fresh quote on that pumper tanker, and he said that they came back at about $950, which is a little bit higher, but like I said, that is one of the engines that has not been refurbed yet.
Yes.
And the refurbs are running at about $350, and Matt said, hey, if we could take that, then, that changes that up to about $600,000, and then, go ahead and sell Engine 91 at the end of the process if we saw a need to do that. Yeah, the engine would be $950. The refurb, the refurbs that we've been doing on the engines are about $350, and that truck has not been refurbed yet. So he was saying instead of spending that $350 to refurb it, if we could just do the $950 to buy a new one, and then whenever that one's delivered, then he would be okay with taking 91 and selling it or doing whatever to offset that cost further.
And what do you think the estimated price we would get to sell it?
Right now, he said that, $300,000 would probably be pretty easy to get.
Okay.
At the moment, so that may go up. That may.
And one thing I would like to add, talking about the refurbs, is I'm having a hard time with E1 even having a discussion about when the next truck is going to go. They have had a hard time finding anybody that will work in the shop. I've still got 4 trucks yet that were scheduled to be refurbed, and I was probably about 2 emails and a phone call away from asking to scrap the refurb program and start with replacement. Because the last time I talked to them, they said they were 9 months out before they could even have the discussion of when we were going to send it. So that leaves 4 trucks that are 2001 that have not been touched yet, that aren't getting any younger. So the last time I spoke to him, so the guy I was dealing with before, he's retired and moved on. The guy that was our foreman on our last 2 builds, that did a really good job, by the way, died since then. So those 2 people are gone that I've been dealing with. The guy that I'm dealing with now can't even give me a date when we can start talking about putting together the proposal. So just something to keep in your hip pocket when we're talking about the refurbs on the last several engines. It's going to be a while before I can even have them looked at anyway.
And with all the discussion about the 4 tankers and having the water supplies necessary, that is definitely a need countywide. But by replacing this new truck with, say, replacing engine 91, this new one is also spec'd out to be as close as we really could get it to the current county-owned pumper tanker, which is a 2,000-gallon truck. A little bit less than 1,000 gallons less than what you're talking about on those other 4, but still what we've been using now, and still an ability to bring water to a scene.
Yeah, and you guys have a good solid tanker in use right now.
Yes,
so.
we have a 3,500-gallon tanker that's available along with a engine that carries an additional 1,000 gallons on it. So we're pretty good on first run out, but we still depend on that mutual aid to come help us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good to see you, Ray. Thank you. Okay. Let's hear from Forward Training up here. You've been sitting patiently by here. You want to come down and speak? Yes. I know that you said that you're representing Kathy has surgery scheduled, is that?
Yeah, every time you guys have a meeting about this grant, the ED's having a medical procedure. So I get stuck. And so I'm here representing the Ford Training Center, and I know since our last meeting that the county's decided to donate us 18 towers, which we're very happy about. I understand they're like 2 years old?
I don't know.
I will be delivering those probably next week.
Cool. That'd be great. With those 18 towers, but we still need software, are they going to come with Windows 11? Software, are they going to come with Windows 11?
Drew, are you over there?
Clean.
Yeah.
Okay, clean. So we're going to need
They're clean.
software and then some labor to do all that work. Although I work pretty cheap, we do have an IT guy that actually does it all. And so we would need about $1,400 for software and $4,600 for labor. Now I can provide you a copy of this once I get Katie to sign off on it.
Okay. Drew, can you?
Some of these questions.
Oh, okay.
Can you speak? Yeah.
Into the microphone.
Speak in the mic, please.
Yes.
Drew.
I can see that. It says.
I know. So out of the 18, so here's the update. So out of the 18 that we were able, or we were going to start to wipe clean for you and get you at least set up, we were only able to recover 10. So there's only 10 of them that we're going to be able to donate. And they are Windows 10 because they do not meet the standard for Windows 11. So they're more around 4 years old.
Really?
Yes. I'd say they're more 3-4 years old because, again, they don't meet the Windows 11 standard.
Oh. That kind of changes the complexion of things. Because nothing, ours doesn't meet the Windows 10 standard either. And
I mean, Windows 10 is still good until the end of 2024.
Yes. Are they expandable for memory or anything?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They do have upgrade options, yes.
Okay. Now with this information, I need to
still
change a little bit more as far as our total project. So if I can take what he said and I can get with the executive director and send you guys a piece of paper later. Cool?
Would you like my email? So do you have any questions relating to any of the towers?
Yes. I got a pencil here just now.
Okay.
So when you said you're only able to recover, what was the defect with the other 8?
Well, you had a few of them that had motherboard issues. There was another 2 or 3 that had graphics card issues. One, there was a CPU cooler issue. And so basically we took, again, there was actually more, but we kind of took the extra parts.
Pieces and parts and made,
and
okay.
put them into the 10.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
The form that Kathy signed is over there to be processed through the county clerk's office, and then that part of it's done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Again, I'm going to thank Commissioner Wilson for following through with his idea to get with IT and get this done. I think it's a great partnership to be able to get you those, upgrade those computers.
Yes, that would be great.
So here's a real quick thought, since I'm in, of course, front of you, but in front of the commissioners. Moving forward, maybe because as you know, everyone gives us money, generally speaking, every year, so we can go through and, again, replace computers as needed. Maybe the court, or I don't know, maybe every quarter or every half year, or something like that, we can come in front of the court and say, hey, we have all these computers, and instead of just sending them straight to auction, maybe we can just give them to the charities.
Good idea.
Because again, they're not 10 years old like what they're dealing with, but they are 4 years old, and they essentially could get a second life.
Yes.
You know, just a
That's a great idea, Drew.
And
That's a great idea.
the fact that, the county, on an average might generate $15 per unit, after we pay the fee, I mean, that's, there's a whole lot more benefit going to where these are going than that $270.
It goes to the scrap pile.
Well,
I agree. And I think, ultimately, it comes back from taxpayer money, so being able to extend that or give the longevity of, I think that would be a good thing,
Good
in my
idea.
opinion.
I agree.
especially since we cleared up the fact that it doesn't take that much manpower. It takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes to set it up, to wipe them clean, and then y'all can go about and do your other business. So
Yeah,
it's
glad
no
we got that cleared
manpower,
up.
so that's great. That's great. So
idea,
that's what we'll
So
do.
if he's going to stay in the job a long time, he's going to hear a lot from me.
Okay. All right.
I'll find your office.
All right.
She'll-
Thank you.
She'll find
Thank
you no matter where you are.
Okay. Crystal Moore.
Good afternoon.
Put the microphone down so you, right next to your mouth. There you go.
Right there. Better?
A little bit higher.
Really?
Right next to your lips.
Right there.
Okay.
Better?
That's good. There you go.
Okay. I am here just to talk about the nonprofit side of the ARPA funding. I'm not sure if you are aware, but we've done some checking and have some stats I want to kind of throw at you real quick. The Parker County, the surrounding counties of Hood County have put in between 52.8 and 60.4% of their ARPA funds to the nonprofits in their counties. That's a lot. I think that the nonprofits here in Hood County are not asking for nearly that amount, even what was given before. And I think that we do some good work here. If you go and look, you can find that the nonprofits in our Hood County, save our government $2.5 million a year in government services as far as TANF and Medicaid and other government services. So I know that there has been some pushback on not wanting to give a lot to the nonprofits. And obviously our fire departments, our sheriff's department, they need their equipment. We're asking for a very, very small amount. We do a lot of work here. You have our grant in front of you. It's allowing us to pull all of the nonprofits together to work closer to continue providing services without duplication. We are really focused on capacity building, which is a path to sustainability. We are not just working on today's issues. We are wanting to look forward and do forward thinking and fix the cycles and the generational issues. And COVID really had a huge, huge effect on that. Just a few things that aren't in your grant that I wanted to show you. United Way has supported our nonprofits in our community through COVID when our funding was basically non-existent. During COVID, we have always primarily received donations through our workplace campaign, and that was people at work would say, hey, we'll give you $1 per paycheck, and you can put it into the community, and that's what we did. We are about 1.5 to 2 years behind on seeing that money come in. It always comes in about a year and a half behind. And so in 2020, just to show you how dramatically COVID hit us, because people went to work, they stopped going to work. They were working from home, so they didn't get to go through the campaigns. They didn't get to see what that money was going for. In 2020, we brought in $331,000 in the workplace campaign. We gave away $150 in grants of that money just straight to our nonprofits. And I'm giving you that number for a reason. I'll tell you in just a second. 2021, that number went down, the amount that we received, to $202,000. So it dropped over $100,000 from COVID, from people going home. In 2022, it dropped down almost another $100,000 to $125,000. This year, in 2023, we are only at $25,000. So between the time of 2020 and 2023, our yearly income from workplace campaign, because so many people are going to work and policies changed after COVID, our workplace campaign went from $331,000 to $25,000. Now, at the same time, we were still doing our work. We were still funding our nonprofits. We did not feel like we could abandon them in the time of COVID. They needed help. They were helping our community, and we wanted to support them doing that. We had the money in reserves, so we decided to do that. Our allocations did not decrease. We gave $150. Last year, we did give $125 because obviously, you know, at that point, we realized how low it was going to go. We are now at a point where we have to start decreasing those allocations, the grants to our nonprofits, because the workplace campaign is just not there. We are diversifying funding. We are writing grants. We are helping our nonprofits with capacity building, teaching them to write grants. We wrote the $100,000 grant for Rancho that got them the garden. We've helped Forward Training write some grants. We're really trying to build capacity. We just got a grant to buy a food truck so that our food pantries can stop spending $800 a week having food delivered to Hood County. So every food pantry in Hood County that gets a delivery from Tarrant Area Food Bank, we are now covering that, and they don't have that $800 delivery fee. Things of that nature. And so I just kind of wanted to let you know that I know nonprofits don't seem like we're doing much for the government side, that we really just focus on the community and the individuals that we're helping. But really, we're taking a huge burden off of our government as far as their resources and what they have to spend on TANF and Medicaid and other supplemental programs, because we're here. So that's my...
Anybody have any questions? We're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. YMCA. I saw you break out in that, Miss Mayor.
We won't do the song. So Jeff Thomas with the YMCA, I think Crystal says it well when she's talking about the investment that's needed overall in the community through the people, and this being an opportunity for that. So just want to share what we're looking at the Y, and I know we've had individual conversations about this before with a number of you, but really identifying two areas of needs that we see as an opportunity to invest, like Crystal was saying, in order to move forward with it. The first one is intentional programs for families and kids with special needs, just in the area that we have. And we do some, right? And there is some that's going on in the county, but there's an opportunity to do more for those families. You know, we really see that being a need and an opportunity to be able to build community. The second one, very important that we see every day, and that we want to see more on the weekend, is intentional programs for teens, right? So right now, probably right now, there's 40 to 60 teenagers that are coming over to the YMCA after school each day. And while they have activity, there's a need for that intentional activity that they have to where we can invest more in them. The other thing that we need to figure out is a place for them to go on Friday and Saturday night, past the 7 or 8 o'clock where teens aren't even getting going to that. So to give them a choice to go, instead of hanging out with their bad choice friend, they can come to the YMCA and we can invest in them there. So we really feel that that's an important thing. Now, we don't want to just give it to them for free. We also want to teach classes, and we want them to volunteer at least 1 hour a week anywhere in the community in order to get that membership with the YMCA, thus teaching them the importance of giving back into the community as well. So again, this is a great opportunity. I think for us to take a portion of the funding that we have here and invest it back into.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? None. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Miss Margaret Campbell, you want to say anything? No?
We got Chad Jordan.
One? Anything? Hold it.
Chad Jordan has a...
Who are you, sir? I haven't seen you. Did you identify yourself? Come on up.
He's going to give us an update on his grant request for the constables.
Judge, Commissioners, I know that in our initial response or request, we had in there 70,000. Good news is we've cut that almost in half, depending on how you want to look at it. So with the updated quotes that we got, so one of the things we talked about was the need for a new child safety seat trailer. The Sheriff's Office has got, I believe, you're sending 3 this year? Is that right, Sheriff? Talking with Judge Gillen, there's talk of 3 new child safety seat technicians plus my office, and reaching out and doing that in the community. So replacing the trailer that we currently have that is rotting literally, and also the community outreach trailer for the constables. We've got that down to $11,040 for both trailers. The ballistic plates and carriers, active shooter kits for the constables, allowing us to have one in each vehicle, each officer, plus inside each building for the courts. If something happens, we can respond quickly and effectively. We've got that down to $14,025.60. So a grand total of $25,065.60 compared to $70,000.
Yeah, that's more than half.
Now, if we went with the other one out of Arizona, which I really like, well, actually, no, if we went with Covenant Tactical here in Texas, it brings it up to 48 for the same thing. Total for everything. That's including the trailers and the vests and the carriers and the active shooter kits, helmets and all. So that's an update on that. I want to bring you up to date that we've cut that more than half of what we were to start in our request. Be happy to answer any questions.
Can we keep the tactical vest for the building for the historical courthouse in my office?
As long as your door stays unlocked.
Okay.
He's across the hall.
I think it's really
Thank you all.
important to cover all law enforcement. So
It is, and it's helping us cover each court. So, you know, each office right there with the, you know, and each one, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Planning ahead, just in case, and that's what we want to do. We want to be proactive, not reactive.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else from me? Go ahead.
right.
Come on up, Margaret.
I was just going to say really quickly, one of the things that our grant writer has been doing is going through and looking at the needs that have been turned in ARPA applications and looking for alternative methods of funding. Because we know that we have $21 million worth of ARPA requests and we only have $5.6 million of ARPA funding. So something is going to get left out. So she's looking at various options. A couple of them are using opioid funds, and another other one is finding a grant to pay for the generators that have been requested. And if we get that grant, we'll actually be able to do generators for every fire department and every EMS facility, not just the ones that were requested in ARPA funding.
That would be a huge
That
deal.
would be great.
What is the status on that? When do we think we would?
The deadline.
How long will it take to make the application before we could see the results?
So Emily is working on the application right now. Our next step is going to be going out to bid or getting a quote for what it's going to cost. We had a quote done or an estimate done probably a year and a half ago, and I feel certain that it's outdated. So we're going to get some updated numbers on that. The deadline is the beginning of February, but from our conversations with the state, they're not waiting until the close of the application to start reviewing and allocating funding. So it looks like as soon as we can get updated numbers and get an application turned in, we should hear back, hopefully relatively soon.
So we may know by the end of the year whether the generators are going to be covered.
I really hope so, yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, and the generators for all, not just the ones that were.
Not just the ones that are requested, but for.
But we do need to ensure that we think about the 25% match.
Correct.
So how much would that be?
I don't know what the updated numbers are. Okay. I'm guessing it will be around $125,000, which even so is actually less than what the generators that are requested from ARPA total to.
Okay.
So.
Good deal.
So
Beside Richard Hafs, is there anybody here that hasn't spoken that want to say something? Do y'all want to say anything? Or you, sir? Back there's anybody else?
I wanted to clarify something with Margaret, if you're, so as far as the opioid grant goes for the Hood County substance abuse, the next step would be to, what is the next step for that?
I reached out to the Substance Abuse Council and clarified a few things to make sure that their intentions as far as using the money really fit in. I also reached out to Matt Mills, and he got an opinion from the AG's office as well as a list of possible uses, and everything matches to a T. They also outlined that the reporting and the declaring what the uses are really are not that strict.
Okay.
So it looks like it's really just a matter of the court discussing and approving to do that.
Okay. Oh.
It should actually be relatively easy.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Richard, you want to say something? You've been sitting here patiently. I feel I'd be remiss if I wouldn't let you say something, okay? I know you're on the fire department, the executive committee, and everything else, but go ahead.
Judge, I did sign up to speak, and I appreciate the chance to address you today. Good afternoon, commissioners and judge. First, thank you. You've all been working diligently on this. It's a Herculean task. I can't imagine how difficult it is to be in your shoes with all these worthy community needs and only a limited pot of money, so you can't fund everything. And I'm very encouraged by what I've heard here today. You may recall that I sent you an email a little over a week ago with my priorities. I'd like to emphasize, as I've heard today, that the Texas EMS proposal, to me, remains the top priority. It's the most good for the most people. It reduces response time. They respond to 9,000 calls a year. And as traffic gets worse, when you're sitting there with an emergency with a loved one in pain or unconscious, every second counts. And if we can get them 5 minutes closer to the emergency, so much the better. And that's before road work. When that road work starts, it's going to be life-saving for many people in this county. The generators and station repairs, there seems to be other ways to solve that. That's great. The Sheriff's Department and constables, as the judge said so eloquently, we want them to go home at the end of the day. The ballistic vests and helmets, they've got to be a priority in my book, and I hope they are in yours as well. The fire department, we've heard so many needs from our fire departments, and they do such a great job, and they work together, they train together, they respond together. The plan that Commissioner Andrews and some others have put together for 4 tankers is a great start. You've heard so many other needs of them. I'd like to urge you, I know you're running out of money at this point, but I'd suggest you ask the fire marshal, Mr. Young, and the 9 fire chiefs to get together and come up with a multi-year plan for apparatus. What needs to be refreshed, what engines are getting old, where we're growing. Crescent has 3,300 homes going in. Granbury has more than 2,000. Across the rest of the county, I don't have any idea what the count is. It's got to be in the thousands. We need to keep our fire departments capable to respond to the emergencies of this community, and it's got to be a long-term plan. It's beyond the scope of this grant, I'm afraid, but I know it's on your radar screen. Again, thank you for what you do. Thank you for supporting the community. God bless.
Thank you. Okay. If that's it, I think this workshop is adjourned.